Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. This is Saurabh. I will be today going over the Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 strategy channel. Today, I will be going over some more details on this strategy and the more backtesting context. Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 was documented as a clear and repeatable research baseline. The objective was to keep the configuration focused, make the assumptions visible, and create a stable reference point for future testing. From that baseline, timing, costs, gap conditions, lifecycle rules, and other configurations can be evaluated one change at a time. That makes it easier to understand what changed, why the results changed, and whether a future version represents a meaningful improvement or simply a different trade-off. The focus here is the research specification. Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 uses an engineered payoff geometry, while the baseline test uses a limited number of explicit rules. I wanted the contribution of each assumption, structure, timing, gap condition, hold-to-expiration treatment, commissions, and slippage to remain visible. Regime analysis remains important, but I prefer to begin with stable baseline and then evaluate additional conditions one at a time. That makes attribution clearer and helps show whether a change improved the structure, changed the trade-off, or only improved the specific historical segment. I published 3 related tests because they answer different questions. The reference baseline preserves the configuration discussed in the podcast at Theta Profits. The higher cost test asks how much tougher execution assumptions matter. The starting capital test keeps the same trade path but changes the capital base, which changes drawdown and cargo percentages. The research began with a specific question: could an alternative payoff geometry address narrow outcome dependence, concentrated risk areas, capital at risk efficiency, and psychological holdability? The objective was not simply to maximize win rate. It was to evaluate the structure as an integrated defined risk payoff map and then study how the map behaves historically. This payoff view was generated by the Options Engineering OS using the selected Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 configuration. Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 is one variant within the broader Skyline family, powered by a more useful payoff map where multiple butterflies overlap and broken wing floors create several payoff regions and define risk boundaries. There was also a probabilistic and quantitative idea behind the structure. The design begins with a range of possible SPX closing outcomes rather than a single point estimate. Markets produce a distribution of possible outcomes, and any single forecast can be wrong. The Skyline Butterfly 0DT version 1.0 payoff map was shaped to create multiples across a broader range, while also considering what happens outside of those regions. To be precise, version 1.0 uses probabilistic design thinking. It does not assign calibrated probabilities to individual payoff zones. This probabilistic design thinking applied to a platform-generated option engineering OS payoff model, followed by historical testing of the resulting structure. The structure displayed here is just an illustration to capture the overall payoff zone. Marks a frozen reference, configuration for examination, comparison, and continued development. Once a version is frozen, future changes can be evaluated against it instead of blending multiple assumptions together. This is how I think about evolution. Start with version 1.0, then test one change at a time. Was timing the driver? Was floor width the driver? Was the gap condition the driver? This keeps attribution clearer and makes it easier to distinguish genuine improvement from a different set of trade-offs. This is why I created the reference page. The page serves as a public research and engineering reference for the version, assumptions, supporting backtest, and limitation. It gives viewers one consistent place to review the configuration instead of relying on screenshots or memory. This is where I would switch from the slide deck to the actual page and option Omega. Keep the walkthrough tight, verify assumptions first, then explain how the numbers change between the baseline, higher cost, and starting capital tests. Homepage, the section where 3 studies have been documented. The study we will be focusing today are on the Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 backtest. The same version of Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 versus a 25-point iron condor, and 14DTE version 1.0 versus a 14DTE 25-point iron condor. So now let's go to the backtest page and look at some key aspects there. In the session, backtests have been documented. First one is the baseline, and it uses the same parameters that were used in the baseline with the same cost assumptions on the commissions and the same entry slippage. The higher cost sensitivity one is with the higher commissions and higher slippage. And the higher starting capital one is with the same commissions and same slippage. The one thing to keep note of is all these 3 configurations are with the assumption in the backtest that all are held till expiration, meaning they'll let expire when the market closes that particular day, which implies for SPX 4 missions. The other aspect to look at this page is there are the podcast, and then there are snapshots of the same configuration and same results from the option omega on the baseline configuration. So please review this page and let me know if you have any questions and thoughts. So all these 3 tests have a direct link to option omega backtest. So we'll start with the baseline one here. Then we'll go to the one with the higher cost sensitivity. And then we'll go to the one with the higher capital allocation. Okay, let's start with the one with the baseline one. So I'm going to move to the strategies section. So we have 2 strategies as part of this baseline, and that's going to be the same for the other 2 as well. And the 2 strategies are, if you recollect, the Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 had a valley at the center and 2 butterflies on the left, and that is this configuration, the first configuration, and then it had 2 butterflies on the right, so that is this configuration. Then the other key aspects that I mentioned from setting up the trade is it opens at 9:45 a.m. and the condition of the gap down is not more than 25. So that's the baseline. Now let's go to the one with higher cost sensitivity. And we can see everything else is the same, opens at the same time, same number of contracts, number of portfolio allocated, and the gap down of max 25. The key difference you will see is there is higher drawdown. You would see here a lower P&L and lower CAGR compared to the baseline test. Now let's go to the one with the higher capital, and both of them have all 3 of them have the same strategies, like from a put and the call butterfly standpoint, and they are both all 3 are opened at the 9:45 a.m. and the same as the baseline, same capital allocation, same number of contracts, and max gap down of 25, and the same commissions as the baseline and the slippage. The P&L is the same. The CAGR is low because the starting capital was high, and the max drawdown is on the lower side. The key thing to keep in mind, this is just for educational purposes, how backtests are being compared. This is no advice to build these trades and carry out these trades. This is just for educational purposes. So now let's go back to the session. So I hope the information on the optionsengineer.com and the option omega backtest was useful. This is the future research invitation. I would keep it neutral. Future Skyline family versions may test other configurations, cost assumptions, lifecycle rules, and market environments. If you see a useful research question, a more interesting comparison, or something worth stress testing, I would welcome them to comment or reach out. Skyline Butterfly 0DTE version 1.0 provides a stable starting point for continued research. The purpose of versioning is to preserve a stable and transparent baseline from which future Skyline family configurations can be tested. Future versions may evaluate other configurations, cost assumptions, lifecycle rules, and market environments. If this video was useful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share a thoughtful comment. If you see a useful research question, a more interesting comparison, or an assumption worth stress testing, please feel free to comment or reach out to the options engineer.